let's get you sorted. So you're level 232 still, Nightlord?
Yes.
Because you were gone for a week, I guess, or like around the holidays, New Year's, and all that.
Yeah.
And how was that? Had a good time?
Yeah. Ate a lot. How was yours?
Well, my New Year's was just like streaming and just hang out with the stream, and Christmas was
nice.
just with a small direct family, because you don't want to do anything too crazy with. But we usually don't. It's not really customary over here to have like a huge Christmas celebration or anything like that. Usually, Christmas is just like gathering with a close family, maybe presents, whatever you want to do, board games, cooking together, something like that. And then New Year's is typically just hang out with friends and peers and just, having a drink and having, maybe watching a countdown on TV and just, kind of like watching fireworks, and that's basically it.
Nice.
And then January 1st is you just, walk around in your indoor clothes, drinking a lot of water and getting rehydrated kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's pretty universal everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you been, well, I would say how have you been enjoying the game, but probably been pretty laggy.
Yeah.
It's not been great.
It's all right, I guess.
Yeah.
I mostly just do like symbol dailies on this character. I like to I want to hit 8K Legion before I want to fully focus on this character. I like to lay the groundwork before anything else. And so like I wanted to get my links done as well in my Legion. This character has been parked at like, well, ever since they released the EXP for completing your dailies.
Yeah.
This character jumped up levels like so quick.
Yeah, actually started leveling again. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the goal is like 8K Legion and be like near maxed symbols before you actually commit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like to eat all my vegetables before.
Got like a plate and everything is getting eaten individually.
Yeah.
But this is for sure the character that you're committing to, or are you still kind of having that open?
I'm like 80% sure. I recently burned a Ho Young, and then my eyes started wandering because that's a pretty strong class. But I'm 80% sure this is the class, yeah.
Okay. I mean, 80% is pretty sure because there's like 50 classes, so that means that there's only like what is it, like 4 options, 5 options?
Yeah.
So okay. And what were the things that you maybe like more about Ho Young? Because I feel like they have, well, not maybe a similar profile. I guess Ho Young just pops off way earlier when it comes to mobbing, right? And Nightlord early mobbing is definitely a bit on the trickier side to get used to.
Right.
Unless your Assassin's Marks and that kind of stuff starts hitting quite strong, it's yeah. Not the best.
I just really like the aesthetic of Ho Young. I like the butterflies flying around. And then I think there's a little bit more involvement with Ho Young. I'm not just running around with Showdown.
Yeah, just Showdown.
In circles. Yeah. There's like actually utilizing more than 3 buttons.
I'm gonna go ahead and wager that maybe the vertical mobility was also maybe part of it.
Yeah. I mean, having the third flash jump is nice, but I do like floating around.
Yeah. And just being able to zigzag around and move that quickly in flight without cooldown, it's like...
Yeah,
going from... What is that little up jump somersault you guys have again?
Shadow Whip?
Yeah, going from like Shadow Whip with cooldown to Shadow Whip without cooldown to like...
Nimbus
flight is like still another giant leap of... like this is how the other half live kind of realization, yeah. I mean, I guess you take the good with the bad. Both are very bursty setups, but I feel like Nightlord's burst setup is way easier to do than Ho Young's. There's seems to be a lot more going on there. Where for Nightlord, it's basically whatever you pop like 3-4 skills and then you just hold down the button, right? I mean, the positioning is more important later on. You don't want to like die because of last resort, and you gotta. You probably expected to throw in Oz rings and that kind of stuff, which is of course also added level of potential risk depending on what ring it is. But the payoff is immediate,
Right.
It's and it's there. It's a lot. So I'm guessing that you're not worried about the burst at all.
Yeah.
That's something that you definitely have covered. And there's a rework on the way, of course, which will be interesting to see in a few days. Is that going to play into your decision at all, do you think, or?
Not entirely sure, but I do think a lot of the skills look a little bit cooler. I'm mostly an aesthetics kind of guy, I guess. So if it's cool, I'll play it.
Yeah, I guess even if you turn off your skill effects, you still see the explosions and the stars, and
yeah,
you can't really get away from that. Okay, so I guess what is the so we kind of know the setup and like how you're doing it. Like how much are you playing? Would you say you're just you're just Legion grinding now and doing dailies, but like how much time do you spend playing, and what's like your totem setup? Will you be able to use all your totems? Like,
I definitely don't use all my totems. I play about 3-ish hours every day. But in a few weeks, I'll have a lot more time to play. I'll be finishing my second year, and so I'll be going into like more like an internship, and so I'll have more time instead of studying.
I see.
So
you have to do like a dissertation as well, or?
Yeah, it's for med school, so I'll be in the hospitals on call.
Okay. Bringing your laptop, like on-call rooms, grinding.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be playing a Kana then, because I feel like you got to be in and out whenever you want.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. However, I don't really think that Kanas are that fun. I mean, I made that Kana thinking that I was gonna farm on it, and then I got to Arcana, and then it was a rude awakening that I can't, like, just because you made it to Arcana doesn't mean you can one-shot anything.
Definitely not.
Those crazy rates. Like, I don't know why I didn't think about that. But I got there and I was like, oh, this kind of a problem.
Yeah, a lot of people stay in Lakaline way longer just because you need way less funding and the rates aren't that much worse.
Right.
I guess in the past, Arcana was like this, like, oh my god, droplets, so much money. But there aren't familiars, the big value now. There aren't familiars there. It feels like people more either like stay in Lakaline for a while and then until they're like way over leveled, then do Arcana a little bit, then maybe move on to spiders so they can add familiar drops, or they go into even into morass. And if they want EXP, they'll even go into Celas. So it's more spread out. It's not as bottleneck now, I think.
Right.
Which is a good thing, I think, in general for like the health of the game. But of course, if you're purely looking at the meso rates, then it's a little bit different.
Right.
So that's something that, well, the main reason I mention it is not because Kana, but because of the flexibility, right? Like if you don't know if you're going to be in and out, if you have 5 minutes or if you have an hour, dedicated totem will feel bad a lot. Yeah, I don't know what your schedule is going to be like. I know very little. What I know is like through fucking medical dramas, okay? But from everything I picked up and like Dr. Mike videos and all that shit is that they don't have those like crazy 24, 36, 48 hour shift things anymore. That's all more regulated, right?
Yeah. It's there's a lot more downtime than a lot of people think.
I mean, this is gonna be like a really weird analogy, but I did like factory work where a lot of times you have to be there, and if anything goes wrong, you have to know what to do and act immediately. But you're basically getting. Well, I mean that's kind of what on-call is, right? Like you don't know when something's gonna happen, but if you need it there, you need to be 100% on and there immediately. So you need to be able to drop it like on a dime and switch.
Exactly.
Yeah. Second year, that's starting to get exciting. Wait, so internships is already second year? Wait, so you did all of medical school, so now you're like 6 years in then, or what?
Oh no. So I finished my basic sciences, and then this is my rotations. I just call it internships because a lot of people don't understand it.
Okay.
So it's just a rotation. It's part of the school curriculum. I have 2 more years until I'm fully graduated.
Yeah, and then you become what? Not a resident is after like 2 years.
Yeah, residence after you graduate.
Yeah. I had a friend go through the whole thing. I think he's into the what is it like when you study like the scans and shit, like the.
Oh, radiology?
Radiology, yeah. I think he's doing that now.
That's a really cool field, too.
Yeah, I think you can catch things... You hope to catch things early there,
Yeah.
but a lot of times, I guess, depending on how good your healthcare system is, it's over here like in the Netherlands. So hopefully the system is like a little bit more set up to not discourage people from seeking help because of the cost, right? I feel like if you're if you're like a tech like that, it's like you're usually catching things late rather than early if people are more hesitant to seek treatment. So that's a little bit unfortunate, maybe. But I mean, yeah, you try to do the best you can within the system, I guess, while hopefully pushing to move the system in a positive way. But I guess to go back to your session, not to get too distracted. It's so for your did you have specific character goals or like account goals? Is there something that you specifically definitely want to achieve?
I just want to know how to progress this character, really. I'm just like, I've been playing for a long time, like, I mean, a lot of people, like, on and off for the last, I don't know, 10 years.
Sure.
I'm pretty familiar with all the systems and stuff, but I just like don't know where to start, you know? Like, I have all my gear legendary pretty much, but I don't know when I should be going for, you know, like better flames or pushing for 17 stars or past that even. I'm confused like which rings I should be using as well. So just kind of like nitpicky stuff, I think.
Well, I think that there might be some, we'll connect this to all the systems, but there might be some broad stroke stuff that'll make sense very quickly. And that'll be some detailed stuff that's just a case by case thing, and you kind of just have to know where to go for a certain equip, you know, like a certain item slot will just be an exception where it's like, oh well, usually you do this, this, and this, but you know, these step 2, 3, 4, and 5 are missing, so you basically just hold step 1 and then you just wait until 6 shows up and then you dedicate your time to that. But it's kind of also a good thing that not all the systems are constantly demanding your attention and need an upgrade every 5 levels, right? So that the ones that do, you can focus on those, and then the other ones, as long as you're just doing the long-term preparation and you're doing your due diligence on dailies or weeklies, you know, dailies whenever you can, weeklies hopefully most of the time, to squeeze it in somewhere, then when the time comes and when you have the budget, then you can commit to it whenever there's an event. That's kind of how you want to go about, because there's a lot of RNG in this game, right? So if you can eliminate, well, you can never eliminate the RNG, but if you can spread the RNG over a bunch of different item slots, then you can always upgrade the one that you got the most favorable RNG on, and that'll just be your priority. And then by the time the next event comes around and the next budget becomes available to you, then you can just start pushing in the next thing that you were like the second most lucky on. And that way you can kind of use the game's RNG to your advantage as a way to space out your upgrades, so you don't have to feel like every single time everything is an option, because then it's harder to make a choice. You're kind of letting the game show you what choice should I make based on what the game gives you, you know? So let's say that you do Princess No and you actually get a ring every single week, but you never get like you never get any superior drops, and you just need to wait until you can buy everything with the coins. Well, then you can push harder on the Star Force, on the ring, on the kind of treasure ring, maybe even past 17, maybe even all the way up to 21, if there's no other candidate to spend money on, right? So in that sense, you want to see like a bad situation, as in not getting any superior drops, as a good situation, one where you don't have to worry about what to upgrade because you only have one option. So that like general outlook will help you. And then the other thing is, of course, the main thing is going to be saving up and spending only on events, because the costs are going to start getting pretty crazy.
Okay.
Did you do anything yesterday during the 1+1 Star Force event?
No, I wasn't home. I was kicking myself because I totally forgot about it.
That's okay. I mean, when it comes to getting things up to like 15 stars, yeah, you can save some money, but it's not the end of the world that you weren't at home yesterday, honestly.
Right.
I mean, everything, a single expense is bigger. You know, every penny saved is a penny earned, whatever. But if you're going to go like up to 17 during the 5, 10, 15, that's fine too. So what kind of money would you say you're making on like a weekly basis? You're doing like Maple Tour, Ursus?
Just mostly from Ursus and the weekly bosses up to CRA. And I can do CRA on 2 characters. And so it's about a bill-ish a week, plus Maple Tour.
Up to what? Yeah, okay. So I guess we haven't talked about that. Like, up to what bosses do you solo weekly on the Nightlord, and do you do anything in party?
So I get carried for Lotus and Damien.
Mm-hmm.
The Nightlord can do up to CRA. I'm working on CPAP right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That boss just, I don't know, makes me want to rip my hair out. But
Yeah,
and
you're not
then I can do
alone.
3 doors on my and then I can do 3 doors on the Nightwalker. Up to 3 doors.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the
And
other one, like
other,
HMAG, Akechi, have you done those on Nightlord?
yeah, I can do those on the
Okay.
Nightlord as well.
All right. So it's basically just CPAP, and then the next one would be Lotus Damien, and then
Yep.
Lucid and Slime, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And you do oh yeah, Lotus Damien, you're getting like Carebreak. Okay. And I guess for CPAP, or I guess that's more a general question, like how familiar are you with my commands specifically? You said you're familiar with the systems, but have you seen my commands as well, or no?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your commands. I did my homework last night, so I read through some of them.
Oh yeah. I thought almost you were going to say all of them, but that's not possible in one night, I don't think. It's too much shit there.
There's quite a bit there.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned CPAP specifically, have you seen the video on that?
I got through a little bit of your video of it.
Mm-hmm. Has any of that helped,
And
or?
oh, it did. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But I think I agreed too much for damage, and I'll stand on
Just
top of those little, those, I don't know what they're called.
the purple clocks?
The purple clocks. I think I
Yeah.
stand long and I'll blow up and die.
Or too close, because their hitbox is quite a bit wider than what it looks like, and it'll hit you even if you think you're not on it. Are you using knockback resistance?
I should.
Yeah.
Does it?
For CPAP, you definitely want to use it, because he'll just like bump you every now and then, and he'll just bump you into one of those purple clocks, and every life is pretty valuable on that guy, and you want to avoid that. The other thing, so that's like the prep thing, right? Is like make sure you get the knockback resistance in. I would also put if you have like the resistance respawn immunity thing, right? So you don't like instantly get killed by another full screen attack. Because that's not one shot. That's like 4 one-shots in one. Is like 1, 2, 3, and then a big explosion at the end. Like all of those are one-shots. So if you're respawning too quickly, you could just like die into another die, and you only have 5 lives. So that's a bit risky. And the other thing is to turn your damage into blades. You know how to do that?
I do not.
So if you go to your options, and then you go to graphics, there's damage effects. I don't know what it's set to. For me, it's mini basic. I don't know what you have it set to.
Oh, I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, so that's like that's not the damage skin, but that's like how the numbers visually show up.
Right.
So you can play around with that a little bit, but for CPAP, it's very important that you put it on mini blade. That'll make all the numbers appear on one line. So it'll just be one line of numbers that's just refreshing at an insane speed, especially if you're bursting as a Nightlord. But what it'll do is it won't cover the whole map. And because one of the mechanics, you have to see the number above his head, right? And then you have to match the clock. If you don't have that on, you won't be able to see the number unless you stop hitting, which is, of course, hurting your DPS a lot. So you'll want to have it set to blade, so you can see the number immediately, like one glance, and immediately know, like, okay, he's at 48, I'm at 20, which means I need to take a double now, and then another double at 4 seconds left, or something like that, right?
Right.
You immediately know what to go for. Yeah, and the main thing is just like watching the video and positioning, and just know that if you have enough space between you and the clock, he won't do any of those purple clocks. Like, he has to be within a certain range of you before he can target you with those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, take note of like where the grasping hands go down, right? Be careful of those. Be careful of how far they can go. But definitely, yeah, play around your bind and your burst. So in a way, you want to play them like HMAG, where, you know, if you do die and your burst is down, you know, just stay dead as long as possible. Just wait for your cooldowns to come back. And yeah, it might be a little bit tricky. Man, I don't know if for Nightlord it's better, because if you bind him on the first pass, if you bind him immediately, it might be bad for you as a Nightlord. Because of the rifts on the ground, right? And he usually is not exactly in between the rifts, so you might not be able to commit any of your damage because you have to position yourself for the rifts. So what I usually do now is I go to the left of CPAP, summon it, wait for him to spawn the rifts, then go all the way to the right, just hug the corner. And then by the time he gets close enough to me, and do you slow him down with your the charm thing?
Yeah, the orange thing.
Yeah.
I think so. I have the hypers point in it.
Alright, let's apply the IED right. Chat, is that slow when you do the God, what is it called again? The skill names. Why are there so many skill names in this game? Frailty Curse? Slow and different. Yeah. Yes. Right before I read it in the chat, I remembered, okay? It's somewhere deep in the caves of my brain. Yeah. It's a slow and a defense shred. Yeah, so I would put it like a Frailty Curse in the middle, but go to his left, so he goes a little bit to the left, and then go all the way to the right, just hug the right corner. Because there's no hand there, there's no rift there. And then you basically hold out there until the rifts are gone, but then you want to make your way back to the middle to block the first laser touch, right? And then right after that, you want to commit your first burst. Because then he's going to be further to the right, he's going to be closer to where the clock is, where you also want to stand to be able to block the lasers from touching. Plus there'll be a cooldown until he can do Rift again, because I think Rift is your most annoying opponent. And then you want to just press all your burst buttons, dodge probably like 1 or 2 clocks, and then bind him, then commit the full burst, and then kind of go from there. Because also just to the right of the middle, the claw doesn't go all the way down. It's the one like all the way in the middle that goes all the way down, so you want to be just to the right of that one, like in between that claw and where the lasers, where on the right side you would block the lasers. I think that's a good spot for you to stand. But don't be afraid, like if a bunch of shit is going down, to just go to the opposite corner of where he is and just hide in that corner, because like both of the corners are safe. On the bottom corners, like you can't get grabbed and you can't get hit by rifts. Plus, especially if you're slowing down Pap, since he's out of range, he won't be able to reach you for the purple clocks, and by the time that he can, the rifts will be gone again. So sometimes you just have to, play a little bit safer. Plus, you get to throw out shurikens from the corner, right? So you can still do some damage. That's not like a bad skill. So yeah, just kind of feel it out, see what kind of playstyle works for you, and then as you get more confident with it, you can take way more risk and jump around way more. But like, you can't do the regular like triple flash jump and a shadow web, whatever it is, around, because some claw will come down, or if you just hit a claw when it's in the resting position, that'll also just grab you. And then you just need one clock underneath you, and boom, you're gone. You probably have had that one happen a few times. That's perfectly normal. So
Got it.
You kind of get an idea for that. But yeah, definitely let me know, or ask people in the chat. Are you in like the Nightlord Discord as well? Because specific class stuff. Yeah, okay. So if there's specific class stuff that you're like, okay, I'm getting CPAP almost down, but there's just like one thing I don't know how to dodge this. There might be like some really good Nightlord tip that I'm not aware of, that'll make it very easy to navigate a certain situation. So don't be afraid to reach out there as well. But when you feel like you've already practiced enough, not just, hey guys, how do I do anything? It's like, okay, people usually pretty reluctant to answer that. But if you're like, hey guys, I've tried this and this, but doesn't seem to work, and this is the specific situation where I'm like stuck, then people seem to be typically more forthcoming. So
okay, for sure.
But yeah, I think the damage tip and the knockback resistance, those are already huge.
Right.
Because a lot of things might look very easy. That's why I try to go in depth on like, this is why I do this is why I do this, because that's the thought process that's like behind the scenes constantly going on. It's like, why am I jumping to the left? Well, because I know this attack, this, but if you don't go through that thought process, it's just like, oh, he's just getting lucky dodging everything, That's how it could look when, obviously there's a little bit more thought to it than just pure luck. Yes. Oh yeah. So do you have any specific goals, like long term, that you want to reach with this character? Like you want to solo the Black Mage, or are you just trying to look for?
Probably, yeah. I do want to do end game stuff at some point. So that'd be like long term goal. I think short term would be able to solo Lotus Damien, or maybe that might even be a midterm goal. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it depends on on where we can get you upgraded, and I would say like either your general level of skill and your desire to do so. Right. Like on my Cannoneer already, like before the final damage change and everything, I was able to solo Lotus and Damien at like level 220. But that's with 8k Legion, with knowing the bosses pretty much in and out, and those were very long runs. Those were like with guild skills. I think I had less than a minute left on Damien, you know. So, but that was a long time ago before final damage change and everything. So it's definitely a lot better now. Plus now I got to 235, like got all the symbols, a little bit more upgraded. Still not completely decked out, but now the runs are way faster. Now I can do both of them well within a half hour. Buff. So it depends on, you know, there's also a difference between being able to solo and, you know, having it be a reasonable thing to do on a weekly. I don't think it's reasonable to take like 45 minutes out of your week to kill Damien and Lotus, right? Yeah. So sometimes it could be good enough to just be like, okay, I know I can kill it solo, but it takes forever, so I'm just going to either duo or skip it, you know? But you can at least move away from a carry because you probably don't need the equips anymore at that point. Plus, you can get more crystal value from just duoing it with someone. Especially if the crystal value is changing, there's going to be significant value in just duoing the boss. So.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, but depending on how busy you get with the internship and all that, it could be a short-term or a mid-term goal. Kind of depends. Yeah. So, what's your current funds that you're sitting on?
So I think total, all my savings is like $3 billion-ish in the bank. I spent a lot of it on DMT.
Okay, mainly getting stuff to legendary.
Yeah.
And also like red cubing it to decent potential afterwards.
I haven't gotten around to red cubing, so I actually lost a little bit of damage after DMT. But I'll get around to.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta spend some to make some, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. So if you're familiar with the systems, like how to use like transfer hammer, transposing, that's all clear.
So I'm confused about transposing. Is that? I thought that I didn't know that there was like a 5% chance. I thought that it was just something that you threw coins at.
Yeah, it might even be lower, but yeah, it's
right.
Yeah, some people are like, oh, I got it second try, and other people are like, oh, I'm 2 weeks in and still haven't gotten it. Like, yeah.
So when would be like a good time to transpose maybe my Dominator pendant into? Because I got my Sweetwater pendant the other day, and I don't know what to do with that yet.
So as a whole, so I guess for for broad strokes of progression, right? So in the beginning, you're grabbing like frozen gear, pencil gear, whatever. You get a few boss accessory pieces here and there whenever you can. You get event rings whenever you can, and you focus on your secondary and your emblem, and a little bit on your weapon, but your weapon is more transient, so that one's a little bit less important as you're still transferring over, and that's a result of transfer hammering only going up to epic, right? So it doesn't make much sense to go beyond that because it's going to get reduced either way, or you have to give up on the Star Force investment, which doesn't make much sense either. So the weapon is like a little bit a lower end. Then usually go into Sweetwater weapon, get enough damage, a lot of damage coming from the secondary and the emblem, coming from the hyperstats, and coming from your Legion and your links as much as you have it. Then you start working on your nodes, start working on your symbols, and then boost nodes, symbols, WSE, and Legion and links, and then personal skill and knowing the bosses kind of carries you into getting CRA, introduce CRA pieces. Then you start usually at that point slowly working everything up to epic, WSE probably up to legendary, rolling epic on everything, Star Force usually around 12 or something, and then it kind of depends on if you want to hard commit to the character, and then you start looking for events, right? A 30% off or 1+1 event usually are ideal, but any event will do to get yourself up to 15 stars. Up to 15 stars is a big investment money wise for very small payoff because up to 15 Star Force is actually pretty shit except on a weapon, because you do get weapon attack based on the percentage of the weapon, so that's nice, but other than that it's actually just more expensive. You're basically paying the admissions fee to be able to play with the big boys at 15 plus and that's when the big gains are made, 15 to 17. That's when a huge payoff is. So it's fine throughout all of this. It's fine to rely on like the boss accessory set and kind of building that out. And until you get to the point where basically like Lotus, Damien, and then right after that or right before that, depending on what class you are, like Helix coming in. I think for Nightlord it's just before that, because I think you still have a really good kit for Helix, so as long as you know what you're doing, and again, Nightlord Discord can come in there. Once you can start doing Helix, it's basically, because you've seen the progression grid, right?
Or I actually do Helix now. I choose it with the...
Yeah, you could choose it? Okay, yeah, that's good, that's good.
On the left, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, or good. I mean, it is what it is. Let's not try to wrap a little bow around it. Like, it's a pretty annoying boss, so if you can clear it, you can clear it.
Yeah.
Basically, I think Helix is like the huge gatekeeper between going from the mid game to the late game, and that's like kind of the... You're going towards making that big jump. You can definitely get it into the late game just by getting all the stuff to 17 and getting like okay legendary potential. The big step after that gets a bit harder, but if you want to start preparing for that, we can wrap that up into the advice here. But it's basically like once the Helix pieces start coming in and the Superior Golix, once that's completed and you start switching out of the boss accessory pieces, that's when I would look towards transposing Dominator Pendant and adding that to the set, so that you end up instead of with, you're pretty much at nine piece boss accessory, right? Or are you at 7 now? Oh, I see you already started switching out, so you're more... Are you at 5?
Or no, that's... I'm not sure what I did.
1, 2, 3... Well, because the thing is, the boss accessory pieces are actually pretty good early on because of the set bonus plus the flame advantage. That actually bridges quite a lot, so they need not as much investment to be at the same level as like 15-star Sweetwater Tattoo and Monocle, for example. You know, because the better flame and the set bonus is going to kind of accommodate for that. It's more when you want to go past 15, then, you know, those pieces start getting way better. Why? You know, because of the bonus stats and the higher star force and the better potential, blah, 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 etc. But also because you start breaking the set because the Superior Golix stuff is coming in. So the combination of their low level, the set bonus just not cutting it anymore, and the set bonus getting broken up, all of those things together make it like a full shift towards boss accessory set being relegated to being drop in Meso Gear, and the Helix pieces and the Sweetwater pieces, and then by extension that being the Sweetwater Pendant as well if you transpose the Dominator Pendant, that kind of like filling in the gap. So usually that's around the time where you want to go full 17 stars, full legendary 2-line on everything, and fully switch into the full Superior Golix set. That you want to roughly have those things be synchronized. So until you're at that point, you don't have to feel like you need to constantly be flaming your Dominator Pendant or that you're horribly behind because you haven't transposed yet. It's totally okay that you're not at that point yet.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the big shift. And then with that, you know, you should be able to very, very comfortably already be soloing Lotus and Damien, and you're basically like Lucid and Slime should be really doable at that point. And that's usually the point where you start pushing things past 17 stars. So usually, you know, like I talked about in the very beginning, whatever pieces you have that you have the most backups of, which by that point usually is CRA because you've been clearing it for a while. So that one's low risk to keep star forcing past. And then depending on your luck and depending on how good you are with your character, you slowly start moving. So at that point, you're like level 240, 245, right? You start probably about 245. You slowly start moving from Lucid into Hard Lucid, and you start see if you can add Normal Will to that. So you do Hard Lucid, Normal Will, and then as you get closer to 250, either people start switching from Normal Will to Hard Will, and then for Lucid, depending on again on how strong you are and how go-getter you can be, some people start doing Lucid with fewer people. Although I don't think for Hard Lucid that's terribly necessary, right? Because the pitch boss drop is just the belt, and there's no real need to scale up the amount of belts you can get. I'd rather have a fast Hard Lucid run, and you know everyone have the same chance of a drop anyway. But for Will, people start splitting up because of the book drop and everything. And I'm not 100% sure. Maybe someone knows from KMS if the book drop is going to be fully. It's still going to be a shared box that just one person can loot, or because I decided there was some word about it maybe being instance. Of course, if it's instance, then again you can do full party. If it's shared, people will start splitting up as they get stronger. But that usually isn't until you get like past 255, 260, or maybe even 265, right? Until you, you know, basically are like full 21 stars. So and then have moved into full arcane basically by like 260ish or something. So because Arcane is relatively close, I'll hold the bar there. Typically for Abzo, you don't really stray too far above 17, so that's like a very low priority, unless your playstyle kind of requires it. And depending on how you're going to go past 17, that will determine how hard you push the potential, like ever, before that happens, right? Because transfer hammering, again, rolls over the potential, and you can definitely get a lot of stuff done in the game with just 1.5 to 2 line legendary, like, what is it, like 21%, or what's the other one, like 15, not 15, 18 or 21%. You can get a lot of stuff done if everything's 17 stars and doesn't have like the worst flames in the world. Because after, if you do transfer hammer over, then you want to go harder. Then you want to go for like 24, 27, 30 percent, possibly 33, depending on how lucky you get.
Right.
So it basically is like, in the beginning, it's star forcing, then it's potentialing, then it's star forcing again, then it's potentialing, then it's star forcing again, then it's potentialing again. Kind of like alternate. And then flaming is just like, hey, I exist too, guys, but flaming doesn't have an event, so it's more like you flame when you get one. You flame a weapon is super important, and you flame before you transpose. Other than that, you basically don't flame until your equip is like done, and then you can use the flame to like finish the item, basically.
Okay, for sure.
And when there's not an event coming where you want to do either potential or star force, whichever situation that item is in. Flames is really like like icing on the cake kind of upgrade method.
Got it.
So I guess with all that in mind, 2 major things. One is like, when are the events, and what am I going to upgrade during the events? And the second thing is like, how long am I going to hold on to the item? So what is like the mileage I'm getting out of the money that I spend on every individual piece? Those are kind of like the things in the back of your head that will determine like how far do I push. And I guess the third thing is kind of like your budget at the time, right? That's why I asked the questions that I asked, because if you have 50 bill, the advice is very different than if you have 2 bill, right?
Right.
So I guess the main thing, and so a lot of this is going to be guided by calculators, which feels a little bit robotic, but you want to also be realistic, because I can say like, well, next thing you do is just push everything to 15 during the 5, 10, 15, but that's in 2 weeks. How much money can you have by then, right? Realistically, you're probably only going to be at like 4 to 5 bill, even if you go a little bit harder on training. What can 4 to 5 bill get you on a 5, 10, 15? Well, we can look, but I assume it's probably going to be like your CRA to 17, and that's going to be pretty much it, I think. So it might be that the event is coming at an unopportune time, and that other upgrades make more sense, and it might make more sense to just go harder in the sense of prepping for the next 5, 10, 15, and just holding off and seeing, because there is a 30% off not too far away as well, and it might make more sense to just prep on background, keep working more on symbols, keep working more on nodes, keep working more on Legion, and just holding off until the 30% off, and then sending everything to 15, then get cash in on that discount, and then hold for the 30% after that, which might be months away from now. But then going hard on that, and then maybe also pushing past that. So there's always the opportunity of, if I'm going too fast, you stop me at any time, okay?
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
Okay. There is the thing, because people want to make that pit stop people want to get into the Superior Godlike stuff ASAP, right? And you don't have any pieces yet, so you're not at any risk, I don't think? Or did you have 1 piece?
I got a belt drop last.
Oh, the belt, yeah. But earrings you're using refresh for door, yeah. So there was like an opportunity, right, to go into Superior quickly, get a 30 boss, 30 IED, really good base stats on the belt, of course. There is a big upside switching into that early, right? It's a huge power spike. There's a downside because people feel really bad sitting on like an epic Superior belt. They feel like they want to get it to 17, they want to get it to legendary, want to get stats out of it, but then that money gets rolled over. So let's say that you don't really have an opportunity, you don't really have a 5, 10, 15, but let's say there's another 30% after that,
right?
And you do have money, and your CRA maybe gets up to like maybe there was a 5, 10, 15, you got like CRA up to 19 or something, It's like, okay, there's 30% off. I don't really want to do the CRA because, you know, the average amount of booms is really high on a 30% off event. You know, typically for I would always advise like up to 15, use any event you can. Past 15, I would always try to do it during a 5, 10, 15 event.
Okay.
Yeah, the cost can be pretty close to a 30% off or even a little bit higher depending on what star you're going for. But the amount of booms is going to be way lower, which means that the standard deviation, you know a little bit about statistics, right?
Yeah.
It means the standard deviation is going to be much wider as well, which means it's going to be it's going to be easier to get super lucky, but it's also going to be easier to be way unlucky. So depending on your risk aversion, you know, if you're a little bit like me, a little bit more of a penny pincher, you probably would just want to wait for the 5, 10, 15s. And it does mean that sometimes you have to wait like 2, 3, 4 months for an opportunity. But then when an opportunity comes, you can go hard unless you forget and are not at home on Sunday. But other than that, it should be, you know, mark your calendar, that kind of stuff. The thing is, where was I going with all of this? Yeah, so if no opportunity presents itself and you don't have the budget at the time, or you do have the budget but the opportunity isn't quite there because there's no event, what can happen that you might be able to skip, like, you know, maybe you get the superior belt to 15, but maybe by that time, you know, if you get lucky with the CRA and it's 30% off, you could also say like, oh, I'm just going to take some pink bean belts and see if I can YOLO 1 to 21 stars. Because if that works, you could transfer a Hammerite over into the superior, get a 20-star superior, and like you never have to do the epic to legendary, back to epic, back to legendary thing, but you can dump all that money into the star forcing immediately, and then you don't even have to
about that.
Yeah, and then you don't even have to worry about the potential immediately because the 20 stars is just going to carry the item, and so maybe then you can take like a negative situation, which is like, oh, I don't have any other drops, but you can turn it into a positive when you're like, I'm just going to, you know, skip forward. Because sometimes people feel very, very bad about not getting a superior drop, which inherently is like a thing that can hold you back. But it can also mean now I have more time to save up money. I can just make like a 21 star or 21 whatever, like pink bean belt, use that for a while. And then when I do get the superior, immediately move into it, make it 20 or 21, you know, depending on how risk averse you are. Then work on the potential, and then that'll be, you know, it'll be what I said, like going from step 1 to 6 immediately, right? Just because you're missing like the steps in between. And that's how you can make the RNG still work in your favor, because, I mean, there's always going to be something to work on, but if there isn't, that just means that the next time you get to work on something, you'll get to skip a step, basically.
Okay.
But it'll still all come down on RNG, like how lucky are you in the moment, and how much money have you saved up. Yeah. So that's why more money is better, because you just get more chances of getting lucky. You know, that's what it comes down to. But having a lot of backups counts as money, right? Because you won't have a safeguard, or, you know, if things go bad, you aren't impacted as much.
Right.
So I guess with all that in mind, so you mentioned the rings. Yeah, so considering your budget and how much money you say you make, I think the 5, 10, 15 is too early on something you can't capitalize on. The only thing you could definitely capitalize on it with would be your weapon, but I'm assuming that you're going to be moving into... you just moved into Absolute Weapon, right? Are you going to transfer Hammerite over? Or
I haven't touched it. I wanted to get your opinion on whether I should transfer Hammerite or I should just, you know, make it from scratch, since this one already has like a legendary potential on it.
Yeah, if you switch now, that brings you into 5 piece, right?
Right, yeah.
5 set bonus. So that's a 30% boss that you can just add and like take away from your current potential, because that's what you'll just get, right? So you're basically only losing 12 attack and 2% damage. That's what you want to, or 12 attack and 6% damage, I guess. If you want to overpower that with your current weapon. But if you would transfer hammer into it, have you seen which stats the item would get? Because you can see that in the transfer hammer window, right?
I haven't checked yet.
So, because I think it'd be 7 attack, 7 damage. Oh, you got a 20% boss line still. I wonder if it, on epic, it kind of get boss damage, right? So it gives something weird on the 3rd line. Or can it give, no, it can give IED, not boss damage. Because I'm almost certain that it will still be an upgrade, just because the base attack of claws is just so garbage. So for most people, what I would probably say, like if you had a good flame on your Fafnir, I'd probably say hold on to it until 2 weeks from now, save up money, transfer it on the 5, 10, 15 day itself, and immediately get it up to 17, and then you know, tier it up and like work on the potential, and that'll probably be like the main thing you do, and everything else would be just hold money for the 30% off. But since since you don't have like a really good flame, it's probably gonna be. What's the base attack on the Abzo? Is it like low hundreds?
I think so.
Abzo Lab Claw. Revenge Guard. Oh, sorry, I didn't. 103. Yeah, that's pretty low hundreds. Nice. 1080. 10. Yeah, because the. So I get, yeah, like I mentioned it right for flaming. Like the main thing is like weapon and stuff that you're gonna transpose, and then it's just side hustle stuff, right? Like priority for higher level items with flame advantage, then lower level items with flame advantage, and then items without flame advantage. Basically, are you familiar with all of those concepts?
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking because your weapon doesn't have a weapon attack flame. So I guess when it comes to
so should I just been tossing whatever flame I found onto it. Should I like save it all at once and then just like roll until I get one?
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know that context, right? I don't know if you're actively rolling and how many you've tried. But those are like the few things that I would probably buy flames for, just because of how impactful they are, especially since the limited amount of attack you get on a Nightlord, but specifically once you get Absolab, you know, because Absolab is based on a percentage of the base attack, right? The tier of attack is based on a percentage of the base attack, and it's only on like a 160. Even on Absolab, it's still not that great overall. Like on Arcanes, the percentages get really, really nice, but on Fafnir, it's kind of garbage, because I'm pretty sure like a tier 6 on a Fafnir is maybe like I don't even think it's 30 attack. I think it's like 25 or something. So it's kind of whatever. It's sometimes even better to roll like a tier 5 boss attack or something.
Right.
So in a sense, it's fine that you haven't gone like, you know, all out on flames. But once you get to Absolab, it starts getting more and more important. I can use the calculator a little bit, but it should be not too bad. So typically that's the main things you're looking for, right? Like high tier for attack, and then if you can, like align a tier of boss damage with the flames. Those are the main things you're looking for.
Okay.
Weapon. Oh no, this is not the one I'm looking for now. Score calculator. Do you play around with the calculators every now and then?
I do for my hypers sometimes. But I haven't done one for flames yet.
Okay. Yeah, for flames and for potentials and Star Force, it's good before an event to just kind of like play around with it, you know? If you're trying to do a certain upgrade and you just want to see like how much does it cost me on average on event versus off event, because if it saves you like 100 mil, but you can get the upgrade right now versus waiting like a month, that can, for you, you know, depending on how risk averse if you are and your budget and everything, that could be like, well, I don't necessarily have to wait. I just want to get the damage now, you know? Like I don't need to wait. Because just because you can save money doesn't mean that that's the best. That's the best idea for you.
Right.
Yeah, like tier 5 on a oh wait, no, that's Jesus. Yeah, tier 5 is 21 attack and tier 6 is 28 attack, like on Fafnir, which is sad. But on Abzo, tier 5 is 32 and tier 6 is 42. So let's start counting a bit more. 103. What's do you have a current flame on the Abzo?
Well,
you have one.
Not very good. No,
yeah,
it isn't.
Yeah. Wait, you can actually see if the range goes up or down, right? If you throw it into a transfer hammer window, what does it tell you?
I think I go down a little bit.
What's a little bit? Is it like 10k or is it like?
It's like, I'm not signed in right now, but I think it was like 4-ish K I went down. Like a little bit.
Yeah, 4k is basically nothing because you're getting 30 boss for it back, right?
Right.
So I would say it's safe to just transfer it now, get that set bonus, and try to get a flame with some weapon attack on it, and it'll be a net increase on mobbing, and it'll be a big increase on bossing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then for 5 to 15, you try to get that up to 17, just safeguard it up to 17. But that would be the only piece I would really work on for 5 to 15, honestly. Yeah, the only other thing I would do with it is, again, and this is more like off DMT event than on DMT, like only tier up if you are also going to have the funds to roll it after you tier it up, right? You don't want to get stuck with the downgrade. DMT is definitely an exception because, you know, you can just get the upgrade so much faster. But that means that the period after DMT, when you're focusing on the tier ups, you're going to be focusing more on just re-rolling to settle the items into the tier to cash in on that investment. Otherwise, you're just committing money without getting the rewards for it. And then your money is basically just being soaked up by something rather than being used, right? And all the money that's not being used, but is just being soaked up, is not returning any investment.
Right.
So you want to avoid that as much as you can. And definitely items that you have that roll like good luck on unique, you just keep that unique, you know? You always want to focus on tiering the stuff up that's either the lowest tier. Basically, you're always trying to tier up the thing that has the highest potential for gain, or you want to always scroll the thing. That's the whole idea, right? Like, what has the best bang for your buck? That's always what you're looking for, and it is definitely difficult to keep a holistic view on every single upgrade. Well, we can kind of go over piece by piece and kind of like the current state and the future. I think that seems like a good idea. So I guess we went over the weapon, the secondary and the emblem. Like you mentioned those first; those are also like very important. Yeah. Oh, you had some questions here about the. It's a good time to go 17 stars. Should start rolling flames. How many commercial going to transpose? Yeah. So transposing is a little bit up and down. It's 10 dineros per try, and you can try 10 times per day. So that potentially you spend 100 a day, and it could take up to 2 weeks to transpose an item. But you can also get it on second or third try. So you definitely want to keep doing the voyages and keep doing CPQ, even if you're just going for one copy of all the pieces and just one copy up to 17. But eventually, and that's another thing, Commercy dailies are probably the least favorite for most people.
Yeah.
Next to like the weeklies for Scrapyard
like
and
pulling teeth for me.
Yeah. It is a thing that eventually will rear its ugly head again. But there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. There could be, if the current KMS stuff goes through, what an option is that people go like Black Bean Mark, and hold Black Bean Mark until basically, you know, all the way up to like 19 or 20 stars as like their damage piece. Keeps boss accessory set with the badge and the cup. So there's still a set bonus there. Plus has flame advantage, so and it can go high star, so it kind of like compensates for the potential loss versus the monocle. And you hold that until either you get an eye patch or until you get a pet mark to transpose into a monocle, and then only then you go monocle. And then for the eye, there's going to be the drop from I think it's Lucid and Will, if I remember correctly, which will be a face piece, which you can then choose to either transpose into the tattoo, or you can keep it for the 2-set Dawn bonus, which KMS announced. Again, not 100% everything confirmed, so that's kind of like in the water, but up in the air, different element. And then you keep that one, so that would also not be dineros. And then the only thing that basically would come down to dineros is the pendant. But of course, you know, if you want to go past 17, chance to blow up. And they're 400 each, so eventually, you know, and this comes back down to what I said before, depending on what stage you are in, and if you're doing the preparation for later, depending on how many resources you have and how many backups you have, that'll present itself as like the next logical option. So if that's not your favorite daily and you're not doing that now, for now that's okay, but eventually when everything else kind of like runs out of potential upgrades, or when you're seeing that you're going in that direction, it will be a good idea to start back up on the voyages and everything. There is a different Commercy approach. I have it under !Commercy. For the more long-term approach, there's a lot of initial investment, a lot of voyages initially to upgrade your boat, but once your boat is upgraded, you'll be able to cash in on dineros at a very high rate, and you won't have to do dailies for like months to catch up, but you will be doing dailies for weeks or maybe like a month plus in the beginning so that you can get to the high level boat and then you can cash in basically.
Okay.
So depending on how quickly that moves and how much you're still going to be playing and how much you're feeling it, that might be a good thing to look at there. Yeah, so the I think so 5, 10, 15, the weapon, transfer hammer you can do now. The main thing I would say is to slowly work on the potentials and look towards the 30% off that's coming in. What is it? 5 weeks? Do you keep an eye on the events kind of and on the calendar?
I will now.
Yeah, because
after missing
like I don't want to force, but there is just as long as you just have it on your calendar and you're aware, and then in a moment you can decide whatever the fuck you want. You're an adult. But just that to have your options clear, because it's just silly afterwards to be like, oh, I missed it. Well fuck me, I guess. Because February 6th is the 30% off.
Okay.
So that's a while, but then you have a while to make money as well. So it'd be good to make like a little bit of a rundown of like how much is everything going to roughly cost, how much money do I definitely want to have by then, because it will also be good to work on your potentials, right, with just red cubes, and just to make sure that all of the things you invested in to get the legendary, that all of those things are giving you a return on investment. So I would say priority is probably it's a little bit, I'm not going to give you like exact science, but like the main things to work on is definitely getting a line of critical damage on your gloves. That's going to be important.
Okay.
If you can, a line of critical damage plus a line of stat, but initially just line of crit damage, and then you can move on from there, because there's a lot of other stuff that's still epic. So we're not going to like min-max on an individual piece. But the main reason you're getting to legendary in your gloves is because you want to cash in on that critical damage. And if you don't have it, you've made the initial investment, but you haven't capitalized on it at all. So that's going to be a big thing. In general, most of the other stuff, you just want to get to 2 lines that are useful. Even if it's like 1 line of full stat and 1 line of all stat, that's already a good start, and then you can start moving on to the next piece, again, until everything is around the same level, right?
Okay.
But yeah, that calculation first of like how much is it going to cost to get everything to 15. You could, so there's technically an option for you for like the Abzo shoe and the cape in this sense. Again, there's like an opportunity that they're just epic and only this amount of stars, because you could do 30% off and go for the lower level pieces, level 150 pieces. Get epic equivalents, Star Force them up, not having to safeguard, right? And then during the either during a 5 to 15 or also during another event whenever you feel like it, getting them up to 16 and then transfer hammer them over. Again, we can do the calculations. That usually saves you money just because you don't have to safeguard and because it's lower level gear, so it's cheaper.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Because you're on a budget, For most people, I would just, go on brute force through it. You seem to be a bit more on a budget, and there's already a lot of other things that you can push on. So if you can find epic shoes, or at this point, you probably get epic potential scrolls every now and then, and you don't have anything to use them on anyway. So you can use them on, for cape, the Remaru capes are probably the easier ones, or the Enraged Zakum capes. And for the shoes, either Remaru, or you can buy the Ancient Root shoes in the Root Abyss shop. You can buy those whenever you need them, so you don't have to like save them in your inventory, so that's pretty useful. You know where to get those, right? Root Abyss.
Yeah.
Root Abyss shop, yeah.
There's like the merchant at the top.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And you can buy them at the moment, so if you just have, if you get an E-pot, you can just throw them on there. But just like, the safeguarding from 10 to 15 on Abzo is just, if you get unlucky there, it's just, Plus, the 1 extra star is not that expensive, and then you just transfer over and you're immediately done. So, and you're not losing that much on potential because you're going to be rolling over it to get it to legendary anyway, so you're already losing that potential. So that's not a value lost necessarily there.
Right.
But yeah, so for all the other stuff, I try to get 1.5 to 2 useful lines. So that includes like the shoulder, and the what else was? I guess everything else is capitalized on it except for the WSE. Percentage damage is a little bit in a weird spot now. You're aware of the reboot passive change, right?
Mm-hmm. The whole final damage stuff.
Yeah, so there used to be a whole lot of percentage damage, which meant that percentage damage lined by themselves were worse, and definitely showed up worse because there was just so much damage bonus, visual stat going on. There's still a lot of damage, but that's usually now boss damage, and that only applies when you're bossing. So when you're not bossing, your regular damage bonuses for a lot of classes very low, so proportionately damage percentage looks way better. It is way better when you're attacking normal monsters, but it looks better than it is because on bosses it's getting thrown onto a bigger pile and there's much more reduced efficiency there.
Right.
So it could be deceiving to look at like the plus number when you're scrolling, because even though that's accurate when you're mobbing, you're typically never optimizing for mobbing, you're optimizing for bossing. Well, kind of for both, but mainly for bossing, right? Because you want your symbols and your boost nodes, and you want all of that stuff to be destroying the monsters, not your potential on your secondary. In the beginning, yes, but like with the stage you're in and beyond, it's like a smaller part of the puzzle.
Right.
So even so, that does mean what that means realistically for your pieces is that the emblem and the secondary are not horrible, but they are going to be like sooner rather than later probably on the chopping block to see some improvements, and probably the secondary before the emblem, because that one already has 2 lines of attack. Sadly not the top line, but
yeah,
we'll take what we can get, right? So going for 18 or for 21 or for a big line of boss and a line of attack on the secondary will definitely give you benefit. However, I did see in your inventory you do have the Princess No as well, right?
Yeah, I accidentally tiered the one I'm currently equipped up to legendary by accident with those purple cubes. With
like a Meister. Yeah, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's fine to throw like extra Meisters. For now, I would throw Meisters like at stuff like your shoe and stuff. But if you get the Princess No secondary to legendary, I'd probably throw Meisters on there to see if you hit something, or has it as slightly higher priority once all the other pieces that are legendary get useful lines on it. Especially the glove and the shoulder. And see if you can get something better on the Princess No secondary, so you can switch that out for the current one.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be like potential weapon would still be more important, right? Getting that to legendary, getting useful lines there, and then it'd be glove, then be shoulder, and then secondary, probably in that order.
Right.
Yeah. So flaming wise, it's mainly the weapon, and then I think your cape, right? Because I think that one's awful right now. Yeah, cape doesn't give anything, right?
No.
And you're familiar with flame scores, right? Like what you're aiming for?
Yeah. I saw your.
Yeah, the progression grid, the numbers, yeah. So as long as you're like approaching that, then you're good. You can move on to the next piece. Or you can, get everything to around 30, everything to around 40, like slowly work your way up that way if that makes you feel better. Whatever scenario that works for you. It probably kind of depends on what your input on flames is. I imagine it's not terribly high. But with events and stuff, maybe you're limited on resources, but maybe event shops will allow you to splurge a little bit on flames, and then depending on where you're going. Because like the shoe can also be improved a little bit, the glove can also be improved a little bit, but the weapon and the cape of course stand out way more. Again, bigger bang for your buck there, because average return now is way better. Sadly, the gloves are an int roll, of course. It would be nice if that was a luck roll.
Yeah.
Then you'd be settled, but it'd never be that easy.
Yeah, never.
You have a question here for Auto Steal on gloves. I mean, short answer is no. Long answer is you have to be a certain level of strength, plus you have to give up critical damage, basically, right? You have to roll with Meisters. Let's say that you end up getting this one, 17, a line of crit damage, a line of stat. You end up moving into Arcane, and you're super overpowered, you kill everything. You could re-roll the Absolab gloves at that point with Meisters to increase your gains a little bit without losing any kill speed, right? That could be a choice that you make later, so you can still capitalize on the investment and make good on the, otherwise the glove is just sitting in your inventory, not doing anything for you, right? That's the main reason why we also transpose the weapon, is to maintain some of that value that you've already invested and to move that over to the next piece, because we don't have trade, so you basically trade with yourself within your account to maintain some of that value. What is a lucky hat? In which situation would you need one? Basically, lucky hat is the Chaos Root Abyss hats. So, lucky items in general count. Lucky items can count as a set bonus piece in any set in which that type of equip exists, as long as that set already has at least 3 other pieces active in it at a time.
Right.
So if you have 3 CRA pieces on, these 3 on the screen, and you equip a lucky weapon, since there is a weapon in the set and there is no weapon equipped yet in the set, the lucky weapon will count as the 4th set and give you the 4-set CRA bonus.
Oh,
and it does so for every set that follows those conditions. So if you if you have this, so that's why Genesis weapon is so good. You go for 3-set CRA, you go for 4-set arcane in the shoulder, glove, shoe, and cape, and then you have the Genesis weapon, and it will count as the 5-set for arcane and as the 4-set for CRA. So you get another extra 30 boss basically for the Genesis weapon on top of how ridiculous it already is.
Gotcha.
So just Genesis weapon by itself, depending on its potential, is going to give you like 160% boss damage or something, right? That's why it's so nuts, yeah. Because it's like 30 base, it'd probably get like 10 from a flame, 30 from arcane set bonus, 30 from CRA set bonus, and then a lot of times it comes with a potential line of like 40, and maybe it gives like 7 on the soul, and you're like, you know, that thing by itself is doing a lot of lifting. Yeah, and then it's got like a final damage skill and an IED skill on it. It comes as 22 stars, you know, so yeah, there's so much going on there. So that's why it's such a power. That's why it's still level 200, right? Imagine if they made it like a level 220 or a 250, because then the flames would start scaling, you know. That's why the item levels are very weird in this game. You probably noticed that, because a lot of it is based on just how the numbers are structured, and just it's more of a mathematical equation rather than any kind of real level requirement. That's not really the main issue for equips. It's more like mathematical restrictions.
Right. Okay.
Which I would, you know, be an advocate for changing that to make it more intuitive and to just change the numbers behind it, but I guess they're too stuck, or yeah, I don't even want to see the code for MapleStory behind all of that. It's probably a huge problem to change that, but yeah. Yeah, so I think the only people who use a lucky hat realistically is Zeros, because they have a interesting system with their weapon. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, you put the boss soul or whatever into it.
Yeah, so basically so they can choose which type of equip it is, but also which set it belongs to. So they can make an arcane weapon with the arcane stats, but they can make it part of CRA if they want to. And if then they add a lucky hat to that, they can like double dip in the similar way that we just talked about, like the Genesis weapon and the lucky weapon. So that accounts for more than the lost stats in the fact that it's not a flame advantage item, and that it's harder to get. Keeping that in mind, that is a more optimal choice for them. But basically for everyone else, it's either like a very niche thing, a solo progression thing, a meme thing, or just not something to worry about, basically.
Okay, cool.
But that could change, you know. There could be meta shifting stuff that happens, and then suddenly everyone is like, oh, I need a lucky hat. Maybe for like the level 250 set, somehow it's going to make sense with Dawn pieces or, you know, whatever. And there was some niche stuff with the Alien Visitor set stuff. I don't know if you were familiar with that, because there was a hat in that set. And then there was a hat in something. Yeah. Anyway, like there could be some niche stuff. Maybe someone figures out that you can get like 0.01% final damage increase in the future, where you know you do some weird shit. But there's nothing gloriously obvious like, oh, this is definitely something that's an option. No. With that. So I would say like your CRA is fine when it comes to Star Force. You know, 30% off. What is it, February 6th? To 15. The potential, I probably wouldn't touch at this point, because potential for CRA at Legendary is horrible. So I'm always advocating for people keeping it epic or unique for a long extended time and work on a lot of other stuff, and definitely prioritize Star Force. I think you're totally fine to have like the potential on your pants until you get to 21 stars.
Right.
That makes sense to me. Because it's just financially more efficient, you'll have more backups, and just cubing at Legendary on CRA is just garbage. So I would work on the Star Force, and I work on the Flames before I work on that potential, to be perfectly honest. And again, like all three have like okay Flames, but like okay Flames if you're like level, I don't know, like 220, 225, so you're kind of like outgrowing them. But again, progression grid, look at the numbers, just see what makes sense, kind of evenly bring them up. Same as the Abzo, but a little bit lower. But again, lower priority. Mainly focus on the events for Star Forcing and for potential. Star Forcing most, you know, because they're more common. Potential if a cube sale happens, but at this point you have opportunity. Not on these pieces, but on the other Legendary pieces. But it's mainly waiting for February 6th for the Star Force.
Right.
I mean, checking the pieces, but yeah, you're just like waiting for Superior Golic stuff. Like, there's not much you can do there. Yeah. but you want to start getting backups, right? So for all of the Superior Golux pieces, there's backup or fodder pieces at lower level that you want to transfer hammer in eventually. So that's like good groundwork to lay. So extra reinforced earrings for the Superior. Ping bean belts and stuff is not as necessary to build up on, because you can do that on a shorter notice if you want to, by doing normal, like Chaos weekly and then normal daily with some drop rate gets a pretty good amount of belts as well, so you don't have to like overload your inventory. The things that you want to overload your inventory with are like Kana treasure rings, Dominator pendants, reinforced earrings, and well, those are the main ones, right? And maybe like primals for Meister rings and stuff like that. When it comes to the rings, I guess, well, sorry, I don't want to like jump too quickly. Like, that all makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to the rings, it's mainly going to depend on what drops you get. So you basically just have like hybrid set of rings right now. You don't have a dedicated damage or meso set, right? Yeah.
That's just it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't want to make you feel bad about that. That's totally normal. Well, you sound a little bit downtrodden by that, so.
Oh, no, I was super confused about the rings. Like, just trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, there's a lot of options, but none of them usually jump out as like, oh, this one's super obvious. Like, if you get a slime ring, you know, you invest in it. You could definitely get like another kind of treasure and work on that one for damage. That's definitely not like a bad idea, because of the repeat drop now. Superior ring is obviously one you want to get to. What most people end up with is kind of treasure, reinforced, superior, and then either a slime ring or a Meister ring on the 4th slot, and have that as their damage rings. Bring those all up to 17, two-line legendary, and that's kind of what you stick with for a long time. Then once you get a lot of kind of treasures, you can start pushing kind of treasure past 17. Again, way after CRA, of course. Well, not way after, but like usually it's CRA, and then belts, usually, right, because of the ping bean access.
Right.
Then it can be earrings because of reinforced, or probably kind of treasure first because it's a little bit easier to get backups on that one. And then after that, it's either pendants, you know, because of dominators, or the commercy stuff if you've been doing the narrows the whole time. That's generally like the order, but you know, RNG, it may vary. For Nightlord, you will be looking towards Oz rings, because it's just so beneficial for the burst. If you can hit an Aurora 3 or 4, Ring of Restraint 3 or 4, those are very, very strong. You know, specifically for burst, and you're so burst heavy, so that's going to make a huge difference for your damage output, and to help you feel better about the off burst damage. Which leaves a little bit of room for the imagination there. So that can also mean that one of your slots you're not trying to push all that hard, because you know you're going to be wearing an Oz ring there for the important stuff anyway. So you might want to reassert those, reassign those resources. Again, specifically Nightlord Discord might give you more insight on like how reasonable that is. You know, ROR drop rate garbage, but you know, it is that good. So some people will have like 21 kind of treasure ring, you know, depending on how good the reinforced goes. You get another high Star Force kind of treasure ring or Meister, transfer hammer that into the superior, right? And then do the same thing like you would do ping bean belts to superior belt. Kind of like the same mechanic, the same thing you would do for reinforced earring into superior earring, right? You just transfer hammer them over. And these jumps are just like, you do them or you don't do them, right? So it's like at 21 stars over into 20 stars, and then either commit to 20 or try to tap 20 to 21 on the superior. And then if that works, you commit to them. And if it doesn't, you want to, so before you do that, you want to make sure you have at least one backup. If it doesn't work, you sit back on a 12 star or get it back up to 17 and try again next time. Or you know, get another fodder item up to 21 and try again. But of course, if things go wrong, you want to be able to buy backups. So you have to look at Golux coins at that point and see how many you have there.
Okay.
This is like much further down, of course. Yeah.
Right. So I do have enough coins for a superior piece. So I just wanted your opinion on which one I should buy first. So would it be the ring, or maybe the what's the other piece? Dependent?
Yeah, so the earring can drop, so you definitely want to give that one low priority. That's correct. So it would be pendant or ring. So what's your current pendant situation?
I think I have 2 or 3 copies of the Dominator, and then I'm just using
It's just the Chaos Horntail? Yeah, those are your current, yeah. So both of those could be upgrades. The problem is the pieces that you're introducing are definitely going to be the pieces that you want to dedicate to damage, right? That's going to be their main purpose. Right. So if you, what are your situations? If you would get the, I'm just talking through the whole process, right? So you can do it for yourself next time, and you can basically get the same answer that I would come to. Right. If you get the Superior Pendant now, okay, there's an event coming up on February. You can definitely get it to 15 then, and then afterwards get it to 17. And then it doesn't give you the set bonus yet, but you can start working on getting it damage lines. That also means that one of your current damage pendants can be relieved of its duty and go into drop rate or meso gear. So that opens that option up. What does doing the rings get? You already have 4 rings, but you already have drop rate rings, so you're essentially immediately being able to go into going it into damage and gaining the damage potential, because you can replace an item that only has like 6%, like the Chaos Ring, and immediately get higher. But you need to get to 17 before it's an upgrade. But you're not breaking any set bonus there, which you would be breaking with the pendant. So I'll probably go for the ring. Okay. That makes more sense. Yeah. But drop rate of Meso is not something to be underestimated, because it also gives you more value in when you're mobbing. So if you feel like you're going to want to train a lot and want to make more gains training, then I'd probably go for the pendant instead, so that you can get the extra drop or Meso piece in from the current ones, right? But if you're planning on what you were doing, right, because that's like the background info for the people listening, is that you were sitting more on just doing dailies and working on your Legion because you don't have as much time playing now, then the ring would make more sense because you want to just speed up the bossing a little bit more rather than make more gains while you're training because you're not doing that as much, right? Okay, yeah. So that would be the way that I would weigh those factors. But again, depending on how you're going to allocate your time, it might be a little bit different. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then just hope that you get the other drop before you can afford the last piece. But fingers crossed. I guess you can extend a little bit until you can afford like the last piece and the reinforced ring, maybe, so you can do that switch kind of together. Right, yeah. But yeah, backups is going well. Just hope for more kind of treasure rings. But other than that, it's going well. Hopefully, get some primals, and then you can Meisters can be an option. I don't see any of the. So switching, yeah. I mean, when you switch out the rings when you can afford it. If there's another event ring, did you pick up a current event ring?
Yeah, I put it on my. I accidentally claimed it on my my Nightwalker.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well.
Yeah. Well.
Can't do anything about that anymore then.
Can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you asked for Tower of Oz rings. Yeah, so it's a low chance from the boxes RNG. But basically, the Ring of Restraint is the most important one. Weapon Jump is also big, but basically, Ring of Restraint just creates like an aura in the map, and if you stay within that, you just gain an insane amount of damage. I think it's like 100% attack. Oh wow! While you're in it. Yeah, it's incredibly broken during the time that it's up. Yeah. But if you move out of that range, it disappears. So it's good for Nightlord when the boss is like stunned and there's no effects going on and you can commit everything. But if there's damage going on and you're in in last resort and you have to dodge an attack and you jump out of it, you immediately lose it. So it's like high risk, high reward. That's already very Nightlordy, so it's like right up your alley. Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people try to combine it with the Kerr ring, which is a ring from the Stellar Detectives, which can be upgraded and can give you a 10-second iframe. So that would be another ring slot lost. But again, the combination of like an ROR plus a Kerr ring can, even though the damage is, you're paying some damage there, but you can highly cash in with a combination of being able to commit all the damage. So that's a combo that some people go for. Yeah. Yeah, everything has its own button, of course, so it'd like more buttons to press, but then the payoff is there at the end. Yeah, for Big Holy Cup, like you can flame on the side if you want to. The current flame is good though, so I'm not saying it's a priority, but I would just keep like one side cup so that once you get to that point, you can just throw a flame on there, and then if it does improve, you can switch them out. But yeah, again, it's a low flame priority because you have a lot more stuff to flame before then. So, but that's just like a kind of a side mention. 9-second iframe? Yeah, sorry, not 10-second. My bad. Long, okay. Yeah, so I guess you're mainly just sitting out the 5, 10, 15. It might feel bad, but in the long term, it's the right decision. I don't overcommitting to the 5, 10, 15. Well, committing to the 5, 10, 15 now, I think would be overcommitting, and you'd be stretching yourself in too many directions, too thin.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's mainly So weapon, those flames. Slightly committing to the potential. Make sure you check on how much money you need for February 6th. Keep that in mind. Maybe throw some totems up to make sure you can commit that. Bumping everything to 15. Yeah, and if you have backups for stuff like CRA, don't safeguard, right? If you can avoid having to safeguard, don't do it. If you need to safeguard, of course, do it. And yeah, for everything, after that, it's the big 5, 10, 15 to commit. Yeah, you mentioned Black Beam Mark. That's going to depend on what you want to do with your current pieces. Like your monocle is 20 drop and 10 all stats, so it's basically a drop piece at the moment. So I think it would be fine to work on a Black Beam Mark also during the 5, 10, 15 and see if you can get it up to 15. And keep getting backups if you get one. And then roll it for damage. If it gets drop or mezzo more than the current one, then you just re-roll the monocle for damage. If it does get damage, you use it as a damage piece. Basically, even up till 17 stars, whatever potential you get on a piece kind of determines what roll it's going to get. Because in the long term, getting some stuff up to 17 is going to be a speed bump. Right now, it's very expensive, but in the long term, it's going to be a speed bump. But rolling a specific potential on something could be billions and billions and billions before you ever get it again, especially if you're looking at like, 27, 30%, 33% potential lines, or like double drop, double mezzo lines. That will just determine sometimes what you do with a piece, and you might have to remake it. It sucks if it's like a transposed pat mark into a monocle and you roll like double mezzo or something. That might be an exception, but short of that, the potential can determine what you end up doing with a piece for sure.
Right.
And it's just like with Legion and Links and with hyperstats, right? You just want to move the movable pieces around, and stuff that is more expensive to move or more unmovable forces. That's you have to respect that basically. Yep. If we had trade, you wouldn't have to, but we don't have trade, so you have to respect that.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't want to cut you short because we actually still have time, but I have to pee really badly. But I'm trying to keep it in. Do you have any? Did you have any questions with the Legion or the Matrix or the? I see you have some familiar questions.
Just a couple familiar questions. Like I am a little confused on how to get epic ones. Like, is it only? Can you only get them to drop? Or do you upgrade
they cannot drop.
They can't
only
drop. Okay.
Common and rare can drop. So if you want to get them, it's either booster packs, low chance, but that's kind of like a backup thing. Mainly when you're just early on in the game, what you're looking for is like small amounts of drop rate, 15% IED like you have, and maybe a little bit of healing, but even that is not super important. And then you just hold on to that, and whatever else you get familiar-wise, you just extract it. And you basically work your way up until higher level areas until they start dropping, because if you want to get to epics, you want to get to uniques, you need to fuse the same familiars together to level up. You summon them to level them up, and then you fuse them together to fill up their fusion bar, I don't know, for lack of a better term. And then when the fusion bar is full and the level is full, then you can attempt to rank them up, but they have to be the same familiar. So unless you're getting a lot of the same ones, you just reveal them. If it's shit, extract it. If you get a lot of the same ones, you commit them into a rare one, and then basically try to, you YOLO into epic, and if it's something shit, you either keep them or you keep pushing them all the way up to unique. But it kind of depends on how many cards you have. If you have like thousands of cards, I would say definitely make some uniques, don't have your entire inventory filled up. But if you're pretty limited on how many cards you have, I would just mass produce epics just for the more direct chance of an upgrade.
Okay, got it.
And have like exclamation mark familiars that goes a little bit more into detail about, what kind of lines can you expect and all of that.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if you have any Matrix questions?
I think I'm good on the Matrix. Last question though. So I do have a deep dark critical ring.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm not sure how much that equates to.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, I get that. I saw it as well in your inventory. I was like, oof, hope he doesn't ask that because I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. It's. I'm gonna say, I feel pretty confident to say that it's probably better for damage than your Vengeful Ring.
Okay. Okay, cool.
But once your the other ring is like a 17-star, like 15% or 18% luck ring, then that's probably better. But like the critical damage on the ring, it's usually, what I heard, it's like equivalent to like a 15 to 17 star double potential unique line ring. Rough estimate.
Got it.
Yeah. As like a benchmark. If someone wants to correct me on that in the YouTube comments, go for it. But that's what I've heard, so that's what that's gonna be my response. Okay.
Cool. Well, no other questions for me.
Okay. Thank God. Okay.
Thanks for your time. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Really enlightening. Yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Just totally understandable.
It just sneak up. It comes in waves. Okay. Like this wave is a fucking tsunami of fucking yelling at me. But yeah. If something does come up or you feel like it was a little bit rushed, just hit me up on Discord and I'll like gladly answer any questions. Okay. Other than that, check the commands if you have specific information, or just throw any questions you have in the chat, and someone or me me or someone else will be gladly helping you out and give you some more direct information. Or the Nightlord Discord, they know much more about Nightlord specifically than I ever will, so hit those guys up.
Right. Cool.
All right, best of luck.
All right. Yeah, thanks. You too.
And good luck with the internship and all that.
Tonight.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
All right. See ya.
All right. See ya. Bye-bye. Oh my God. I feel so bad for cutting it like that. It just really jippy. All right. Leave a comment if you want to win a session like this. Happy New Year. We're going to keep doing the same thing. 2 winners per month. Get a free session. Make sure to leave a comment if you want to win. Hopefully this session was informational to you. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. I gotta go pee. Okay, bye.